Okay, well, hello everybody. I'm sure we'll have a few more people joining us as we crack on. But I'm Christine MacKay, CEO and producer at Salamandra.uk, and we are an animation studio that works with B2B clients, and we help them convey their complex messages. And we use 2D, 3D, AR, VR, stop motion, and motion graphics. And following the success from our farmer multi-channel marketing meetup with a 500-member community, we're excited to now be launching a new one with the Tech and SaaS Multimedia Marketing Meetup Group. So here we'll be building on a community of marketing professionals within the tech industry to share learnings or case studies for online webinars every 6 to 8 weeks. We'll host talks from industry experts on all things marketing for tech and SaaS, covering a range of hot topics from within the industry. And each event will include at least 3 speakers, followed by a panel discussion and Q&A session. We'll also be recording these live events to share on our YouTube and Vimeo channels. So today's talk is on the influence of AI in tech marketing. And now that digitization is becoming more and more of a norm, if you think Siri, Alexa, call centers, etc., keeping your finger on the technical pulse for the latest tech and SaaS for multimedia marketing is, we feel, pretty crucial for business success. And over the past 20 years, AI has come a long way and now plays a huge role in marketing and advertising, from social media publishing to highly personalized web experiences. Augmented intelligence can still create unease, but we feel that it should reflect augmented humanity and not the other way around. So we'll be exploring how AI is moving from its marketing roots in web ads and is now benefiting an ever more digitized landscape through modernizing partnerships, conversational AI, and in-app developments. So starting us off today, we've got a wonderful speaker with Alex Springer, Director and Sales and Solutions Architect at Impact. And his talk is called The Evolving Word, oh my goodness, I'm say it right, The Evolving Word of Partnerships. And at Impact, they're known as the Growth Technologists. And by the way, they've got a great animation you should go and check out on the website. They believe in the power of science and tech to create transformational growth. And Alex will be taking us through the intersection between machine learning and human creativity and the ways we can use artificial intelligence to create authentic, non-artificial connections. So take it away, Alex.
Thank you, Christine. So finding ways to take partnerships and make them more intelligent is a really important theme for businesses across the board. I'm going to start off by talking about what I mean by partnerships. It's by no means a new concept. That evolving world of partnerships really comes from this idea that as long as business has been around, there's been partnerships between them. But we have a unique opportunity now to use machine learning, to use artificial intelligence, big data processing to get us to a place with these partnerships that ends up benefiting our customer first and foremost, and then of course our businesses from there. To very quickly set some of the scene here, as we think about partnerships outside of just a traditional, say, affiliate marketing or influencer marketing, and as a broader offering, we want to take a look at what else is out there and the ways that we can engage with our customers to varying degrees of success. When you think about the ways that our customers start really understanding us as a brand and then interact, a lot of it comes through traditional advertising, through Google, through paid social, and there's a really low level of trust around that advertising. Interestingly enough, a lot of it comes with a package deal with AI will personalize your messaging to this audience, and so they'll see personalized banners. They'll see offers that are personalized, up to the point where we even now opt in with Google to say, yes, track my data so that the ads I see are more personalized, please. But even after we opt in, most of us generally don't even trust what's the outputs of that. It's just another flashing ad in a place that we happen to be. It's also getting much more expensive. So you're seeing a lot of that digital ad spend go off to Facebook and Google in particular, but to a number of kind of tech vendors that offer just this direct programmatic personalized experience. And those rates are only going up. So the combination of these two things means we need to find somewhere that we can put budgets that are going to get that authentic interaction with our audience and our customers, but also do so in a way that doesn't fall into these buckets of traditional advertising that have low levels of trust. So we see partnerships as that route. By no means replaces traditional sales and traditional marketing, but it does offer a really unique opportunity to work with businesses that have a similar audience, know that audience, and are able to tailor the message to that audience. So the ways that I'm going to talk about using things like machine learning today are likely quite different from the other two speakers today, in that we're using it to underpin the typically human relationships between these businesses, to inform those relationships and to help two of these various, both sides of this partnership make better decisions with how they interact with customers. And that can be quite powerful. To give you an idea of what some of these partner types look like, so they range across traditional affiliate, which is where Impact started, where we built our original kind of tool set and expanded out from there. Looking at things like a cost per acquisition model, whether that's on the traditional voucher site side of things, loyalty programs, or moving into more content focused publishers, seeing the Condé Nast of the world, Telegraph, The Guardian, and then also finding some more non-traditional partnerships. So getting into things like Spotify and Ticketmaster, partnering to ensure that the customer experience is seamless across those two brands. Looking at someone like Revolut and Expedia, working together to offer a customer who is ideally soon going to be traveling again, and providing them with what they need in order to successfully do so and to have a great trip. So at Impact, we power a number of these relationships. So if you go to Spotify and you find your favorite artist, you scroll on down, you're going to get a recommendation of when they're next playing near you. Again, this is a pretty optimistic bit for the moment. I think all of my examples here are really highlighting the fact that we all are going to be able to meet any of these artists again, but also to meet these brands that we love at the right place, at the right time, and our potential buying considerations. So at the bottom of that Spotify page, you'll find this Find Tickets reference, and that takes you straight to Ticketmaster, where you can purchase those tickets. At almost no point here is it really feeling like you're being advertised or sold to. You're instead getting a service that benefits you as the customer, and often increases the loyalty to both of these partners. This is possible because the way that Impact enables Spotify and Ticketmaster to share data in a way that is both safe for the customer, that is in line with important privacy regulations, but that is also very intelligent. So being able to quickly process things like location of device, as well as the regular listening habits recommendation engine that's already built into Spotify, and using that data to match up to Ticketmaster's large inventory and recommend the right artist. Similarly, you've got connections that are a little more local. So being able to have brands like Apple take their music offering and really tailor it to a specific audience. There's an amazing amount of crossover between the local everyman film franchise, the audience that goes to see, let's say, the 7 millionth version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show being shown at midnight, at least around my corner from me, and the folks who are buying the latest iPhones, the latest AirPods Pro, and that crossover of audience makes for this perfect interaction, this great experience where I can walk out of said Rocky Horror Picture Show. I want to practice throwing rice at the screen, play it on my own small one. Then finally, back to the travel space, thinking about Airbnb and Qantas. It's a really natural partnership, and you'll be able to find versions of it for decades. But what we can do now is we can use the data that is available, and we can use the recommendation engines that exist to offer not just a unique stay at the location that we already know that the customer is going to, they've just bought those plane tickets, but it also fits in with their previous Airbnb stays. And again, tailoring it even further. So the people who like to stay in the treehouse, we can recommend that treehouse. Those who are maybe more the 5-star resort, that's what they see first. Again, ensuring that the customer experience is placed at the center of all this. And that's really what this data processing machine learning allows us to do with each of these unique partnership types. I won't stick too long on the results here. This is not so much me selling partnerships as it is talking about the ways that we can find the right partners and really ensure that we're optimizing the relationship with them. The one I do want to highlight, it works. If you're able to grow revenue through this channel twice as fast, and you're able to use the data that we'll look at soon as a kind of proof point that it's incremental growth, it can have a serious impact on the business, and it can ensure that you're really driving the right initiatives forward. So to get to, at long last, the kind of tie-in here around the ways that Impact is specifically using data and using machine learning to offer our clients really answers to a few important questions. I want to look at the questions first. These partners sound great. Where are they? How do I know they have the right audience? And once I start working with them, how do I make sure that they keep speaking to the right audience and they're doing so in a brand safe way? How do we make sure that we're communicating with partners at scale, using automation to send out messaging to partners, making sure those messages are smart enough that the information contained is useful, that it's not just one more mail merge with a, hey, here's my newsletter. Starting to dig into things like incremental value. So which of these partners are driving truly new customers? And are those new customers the type of customer profile that we want? Really starting to understand how we feed that customer profile back into the machine. And then which of them are, how are we aligning the compensation with the value that they're really driving? So starting off with partner discovery. Going to partner discovery. We want to make sure that we're looking for customers that fit the profile of the really the audience that you want. So by understanding the customer type and being able to start with that, so we're looking for this particular market, this particular age range, gender, demographic, what have you. We can then use the recommendation engines built into Impact to analyze a few different things. So pulling out not just backlinks or standard kind of SEO metrics, but also understanding what the customers that have gone to these various partner sites have done from there. What is the typical language of that audience? Age, gender, audience type, the interests that they've expressed. And by being able to take all of that and provide an audience quality score that is tailored to your brand's requirements, and ensures that when you start these conversations with these partners, you know that you're digging in the right place. But you also know that they have an audience that is real and that is going to be engaged. Particularly when you look at some of the partner types that we're speaking about, influencers, affiliates, there can be concerns about fake followers. There can be concerns about engagement rate in the first place, but also concerns about, going back to brand safety. Influencers in general are a difficult thing to get right, an even harder thing to get right long-term. And the consequence for getting it wrong can be pretty drastic. Depending on your brand, getting the wrong influencer, getting that message sent out in the wrong way can be very damaging. And so in addition to this initial partner discovery, making sure that you've got relevant partners in place, you want to be able to really monitor that content in an ongoing fashion and start using technologies around image recognition, natural language processing to understand the sentiment of those posts and to get a good understanding of where your products or your services are being placed next to. Once we've found the partners, and apologies, my slides are obviously a little out of order here. We want to start measuring how we actually get to the right customer, but also the incremental value that those partners drive. So the top line question, understanding which of them drive new customers, is fairly easy to answer. It gets a lot more difficult when you make the question longer. But that longer question is also typically what your business is asking. New customers is great. But do they tell all their friends? And do they sign up for our newsletters? Do they buy our new products? Are they that customer that went to the Everyman Cinema and just had to have the latest AirPods Pro? Or are they happy on the iPhone 6 and kind of trucking along there? By getting that detailed with the question, we can then use the data to understand on a partner level and on a referring source, but also a customer path level, exactly what your customers do once they came in through that particular referrer. So then on this top line here, taking a comparative view and understanding when a customer makes that initial purchase, how do we then ingest all of the down funnel data, new purchases from there, the revenue driven, attribute that back to not just the last click referring partner, but the entire customer path, We'll talk about other channels and incorporating those into the partnership channel in just a minute. But then feeding that information back into the recommendation engine for the partnerships and surfacing the right partners along the way. Being able to turn this around different metrics is really important as well. So if I can go to optimize partners here and say, look, you're great at driving us customers that have, let's say they're repeat, they come back often, but they're really low order value. But I can drill in even further and start understanding maybe optimized partners as a review site. I can start helping them understand which reviews drive which behaviors. What is your audience interested in? Providing that data back to the partner and allowing them to create new content, create new initiatives that are driving towards that really specific goal. Thinking about how we take that to other partner types as well. The influencer platforms are spectacular for content creation. And that's a thing that, at least I haven't yet seen, machines do a great job of recreating. And so by allowing for this kind of reporting to go to those influencers, those content creators that know their audience, know how to keep them engaged, and helping them to understand a little bit more about what the behavior of that audience is in relation to their posts. You got this wonderful place where the creativity of that influencer meets with the data and the inferred suggestions and options available through reporting like this that can drive that relationship even further. Finally, we want to make sure we understand what each of these partnerships is bringing to the table that is unique and where there's crossover. The number of conferences and shows that I've walked through that have customer journeys plastered on every booth that are looking to kind of promise that true attributed value and understanding through the algorithm of your choice or the full algorithmic attribution black box that will spit out, this is the exact percentage of each customer's dollar that you think is really attributed to this channel or this source. It gets a little confusing. So we wanted to find a way to take that same kind of information, that same level of detail, and work it back to a customer view and a partner specific view. So understanding things like how often is a partner alone in the path? How often are there other touch points along the way? How often are they interacting with your paid search efforts, with your direct sales efforts? And then rather than associating a particular monetary value to each of those touch points, we instead wanted to get an understanding of what the path and the customer looks like when that occurs. So if we're paying for 3 paid search clicks, 2 displays in Facebook, and then finally a partner was the last click and we're paying them out for that as well, it's not as useful to be able to say, well, they really deserved only 10% of the total payout. It's much more useful to understand what did we actually get for that full investment? What does the customer look like? So going back to that last view, what does the customer look like from there? And how do we replicate more of the path and more of the partner contribution that is giving us the kind of customers that we want, whether that's increased revenue or whether that's focusing solely on the return on ad spend number. The last bit I'll touch on here is the way that we work with partners, because it's unique to other channels, especially coming from programmatic spaces, from paid search, that sort of thing, because we can use the compensation model as a way of communicating the results that we found and the results that we want to our partners. Whereas you look at something like paid search and their algorithm has said, hey, we will give you this particular audience. When they search for this, they'll see your results. And it's going to cost you this much, and half of our computing power is going into figuring out what that cost you. When you're working with a partner that picks up the phone when you call, you can take these data points. You can turn around and say, I'm going to clearly outline for you exactly what we're willing to pay for, how much we're willing to pay for each bit of that, and what your rewards are for driving us certain customer types. And that, by default, puts you in line with those partners. So instead of looking at kind of the customers as a secondary remove and how do we get to those, you and the partner become true partners in that effort. And again, being able to feed that set of reporting and those insights that are derived about the partner's performance and the customers that come from that partnership, then allow you to take action on that here and really find those productive partnerships. The final bit in terms of a kind of technology approach to these partnerships is scaling that. And each individual contract can require full legal back and forth, full negotiation on commercial terms. And so replicating that across a lot of these unique partnerships can be really intimidating and can take a lot more time than it's worth. I often speak to brands that have one person internally assigned to each of these partner types. And the thought of adding a whole nother headcount and a whole nother partner type is not just scary, it's just difficult and often not even feasible to pull off. So we want to ensure that you're able to take, again, those insights, share them with all new partners, but also have a contracting system that is in place to allow for tailored contracts based on the partner type that comes through the recommendation engine. So you can leverage, again, some of that, the big data we're seeing across all of our partners and all of our advertisers to ensure that you're getting this right every time and able to do so with more than just 3 top tier partners, and instead expand that out to a lot of higher volume partnerships, thinking about things like even the micro and nano influencer space where they've got, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 followers, but they're a lot more engaged than you'll find on some of those big partner types. And you can do a lot more creative work based on the data available with those influencers. The final wrap, that is what we do. We provide technology to support all of those different elements. Happy to answer questions about kind of each section here and how we think of them differently. But the main, I think, thing I want to give to you all to take away from this today, when you're thinking about the ways that technology and AI and pattern recognition can really contribute to bringing in the audience that you want, is that it's also important to think of the ways that that underpins the relationships that we're trying to build with our customers. And that at the end of the day, connecting with those customers is the most important thing. And any data that helps us do that is excellent. Any data or tools that end up with mistrust in our customer base are working against us. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. That's great. That was really interesting. And we'll keep all the questions till the end, if that's okay. But you can type in your questions in the Q&A section below. If you've got anything that you'd like to ask any of us at the end, that'd be fantastic. So that was really interesting, and interesting to see that you can actually measure a lot of the, your ROI and a lot of the stuff that you're doing, and the partnership ideas and processes that you guys involve your clients in is amazing. So we'll hear a bit more with a Q&A at the end, but that was amazing. And so next on our list, we've got a two person talk. So Pete Kemp, Head of Product and Enterprise Bot Manager from Filament, and Andy Feltham, VP of Innovation at Filament. And their talk is on conversational AI, its impact on marketing beyond hype. And they're going to take us beyond the hype to show the impact of AI in marketing. So Filament unlocks their clients' data to optimize their processes and improve decision-making and efficiency. So what's not to like? So take it away, guys.
Cool, thank you very much, and thanks so much for inviting us to speak today. Good afternoon, everyone. Right, I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and hopefully you're going to be sitting up to see that okay? Yeah, is that coming okay?
Yep, go for it, Pete.
Awesome, thank you so much. As Christine mentioned, for this session, we're going to be talking about conversational AI, but in particular, virtual assistants or chatbots, and beyond the hype, how they can be deployed to really boost your kind of marketing strategy. So I think we kind of went through the introductions, but just to kind of quickly run through them again. So my name is Pete. I'm head of product for EBM at Filament. At Filament, we're very much dedicated to delivering scalable AI-enabled solutions for our diverse range of clients. And the product I head up, EBM, to that end is our enterprise chatbot management platform. The product is designed to enable teams to create and manage and scale really engaging chatbots, and I'm responsible for its overall strategy and delivery. Over to you, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. My name is Andy Feltham, and I've been working with all kinds of emerging technologies over the last sort of 10 years or so, and in particular focusing on AI, not just with conversational AI, but across the board with sort of predictions and recommendations and things. And within Filament, my job is to help sort of really get customers out of that hype and into delivering value through the use of these technologies. So looking forward to talking to you about that today.
Well, thank you. Right, so with more organizations deploying them for different purposes, chatbots are really starting to demonstrate their true potential and enhance that customer and colleague, and indeed colleague journey, but we'll be obviously particularly kind of talking around that customer journey. And then with that growing sophistication ensures that chatbots are becoming more and more kind of applicable to a wider range of different applications. Now, however, there are some key considerations and challenges to overcome and to ensure that you're delivering great conversations that really genuinely improve the user's experience and then their experience of your brand. So in this session, Andy and myself will be sharing some of the ways that chatbots can be deployed to really boost your marketing strategies, and some of the kind of key tips which we've learned along the way in our careers to deploying kind of truly useful and engaging assistance. Now, to help to kind of bring to life some of these concepts, I've created, as you can see here, an imaginary cosmetic company called Athena Cosmetics, and their imaginary bot, Athena Bot, and an imaginary user, Nina, to highlight some of the potential interactions that she may have with the bot. But before I jump into that and through the tips and the different ways that you can apply chatbots to your strategy, I just want to highlight a few statistics that really reveal how chatbots are demonstrating how artificial intelligence, but particularly conversational AI, is really moving beyond the hype and beginning to drive that real kind of business value. So while people in the past may have been a little sort of suspicious of chatbots, of these kind of computerized personalities, nowadays they're becoming obviously a lot more kind of commonplace. And 40% of people essentially don't really kind of care whether they're helped out by a chatbot or a real human. And likewise, chatbots are actually becoming more and more commonplace for online shopping. So 40% of consumers nowadays are open to buying items using a chatbot, and indeed may have kind of conducted some of those transactions before. Now, in this presentation, we're going to be talking quite a bit around the sort of benefits to customers, but this stat hopefully illustrates some of the extent to which chatbots can actually help make your kind of processes and teams that much more efficient. So we'll kind of go into it, but by dealing with those sort of straightforward inquiries, this allows 64% of agents to concentrate on those more challenging and indeed kind of rewarding problems. And that's compared to 50% of companies, with 50% of those companies without chatbots. And then so finally, 77% of surveyed customers for this particular survey say that chatbots really will sort of transform their expectations of the companies they interact with over the next five years. So clearly, chatbots are going to be a kind of a big part of that B2C relationship going forward. And actually, these stats were taken even before COVID. And show a real kind of trend towards kind of conversational experience and conversational commerce, and the consumer, and how much the consumer is kind of willing and wants that to be able to kind of communicate with the companies in that way. And if anything, and certainly Andy and I can attest to it, the pandemic has really been an accelerator for this technology. And a lot of the organizations that we've worked with, it's been the kind of the impact of the pandemic and on their services and their users that meant that they've been able to take that step to start embracing this technology. Right, so this leads us on to some of the ways that chatbots can be deployed to boosting your marketing strategies and answer kind of some of the expectations that we've outlined here. Now, before we kind of jump into it, it's really worth kind of highlighting that when developing a virtual assistant, like with any digital platform, really, and my career is in building websites and apps, and it was very much the kind of same consideration. But the customer's experience and the customer requirements should always be the most important thing. And to that extent, I've kind of created a sort of a user, imagined a user persona for Nina here. And therefore, you want to do your research into your user personas, really understanding what your users say, what they do, what they think, and ensuring that you're building your chatbot in mind. And also some of the kind of the technical considerations, what devices they're using, what apps they're using. And we'll come on to that in a little while with regards to ensuring that you're deploying your chatbot in the right places and to the right channels. Right, so kind of into some of the key ways that you can start deploying chatbots. And obviously one of the most common requirements for most chatbot programs is enabling users to ask questions, and in particular kind of common queries at a time, 24/7, 365 days a year, and in a manner that is most convenient for them. And obviously chatbots are kind of perfectly kind of positioned to be able to kind of answer these requirements, and indeed this customer expectation of now sort of 50% plus of customers expect a business to be open 24/7. And obviously chatbots are enabled to do that. They don't get tired, they don't get ill or sick like I was, and indeed my whole family was last week, and they don't have to go and kind of collect the kids, which I had to do a couple of hours ago, and they don't have a desire to kind of get out and have exercise during lockdown, so kind of perfectly placed for this. But what that really enables you to do is support customers at every stage of their decision-making process and really resolve those doubts instantly. And to that extent, Nina here is asking the bot around kind of particular ingredients that they use in their products. The bot is obviously trained and enabled to answer that question, but also sort of follow up with leading questions that the bot thinks is going to be kind of useful to her and her requirements. Instead, she wants to kind of understand kind of particular details around delivery information, which the bot is able to provide.
What's interesting about all this is how easy it is to kind of fall foul of some of this technology. And this is where I think the pitfalls come from, the hype around some of these sort of things. This is one of my personal hobbies in terms of trying to find situations where people and businesses have gone wrong. And it doesn't take much to kind of find situations where people get increasingly frustrated with this type of technology. Indeed, big organizations like PayPal even are falling foul of these kind of simple scenarios where someone has been scammed and the response is a positive one rather than a sort of supportive one. But the reason we mention these is actually not necessarily to kind of put people off implementing solutions like this. It's more to just to raise awareness around the impact that you can have, both in terms of obviously not doing it well, but also when it comes to doing it right. And actually, all of this kind of technology has led to the need for conversational design to be a skill set within your business to start integrating and using these channels. So just in the same way that we had a focus on user interface and user experience in recent years, the focus on conversational experience is particularly important in these kind of cases. And especially with things like retail and so on, what we want to be doing is using that experience to build repeat engagements with our clients and our customers, such that the service is not there as a one-off, but it's something that can come back again and again. And we'll touch upon that a little bit later with some of the integrations and some of the services that we talk about when we integrate, when we're building these kind of solutions. But I think the important thing here is to try and not be put off by some of those public failures that happen quite regularly, but focus on the kind of unwritten success stories that happen and are happening all over the place.
Thanks. So I also really wanted to highlight that chatbots can are not sort of simple kind of back and forth kind of text interactions, or indeed voice interactions, but can actually be a sort of really great and engaging. Oh, I've just kicked off my series, so to speak. Yeah, so they can actually be sort of really engaging and interesting and sort of fun platforms to really kind of show off your products and indeed your services, and educate users around those. And you can use them, and we'll come on to it, and it's dependent on the platform where you're deploying your bot to, but you can use your bot to offer a range of different media to kind of really kind of show off your products, as I mentioned. So you can use kind of images, text, videos, cards, as you can see here, but enable the user to browse the products as Nina has here. So she'll be able to kind of input kind of specific requirements and particular queries, and the bot should be able to kind of interpret those and then serve her up with the kind of most relevant products. And indeed, further going kind of beyond that, enabling the bot really to become a sort of an advisor, and based upon her kind of inputted requirements that are kind of particular and personalized to her, recommend those products that kind of most aptly meet those requirements. So in this instance, Nina's selected kind of to find a look. The bot then kind of prompts to sort of ask a series of questions to find one that might be most appropriate to her. And then sort of serve up the kind of the collection of products that are used in that look. Over to you, Andy.
Thanks, Pete. And so when we're talking about all these kind of use cases, one of the things that isn't often clear is the actual development cycle that goes on behind the scenes when we're building these. So in that scenario that Pete gave around recommending products, it's not the case that the product is likely to be spot on first time, every time, and for now until the end of time. It's often the case that the user's needs and the user's kind of questions and queries will change and adapt over time. So you've got to be able to react to that, and you've got to be able to listen to the way this product is being used and change and adapt. So what we kind of often are talking with our customers is kind of this sort of slightly different model of development, where unlike normal software applications that are very much about design, build, and deploy, there is that sort of feedback cycle, which is so much more important when it comes to developing solutions like this. And that involves kind of firstly identifying what users are asking for, creating some content that might relate to that, testing it with what we describe as representative users. So, you know, real people that are going to actually want and need your services, not just developers that sort of are there just hitting keyboards, as it were. Finally, then deploying and reviewing that content to complete that cycle. And recently, that's been, you know, really highly demonstrated with obviously the rise of things like COVID, as you know, the shift towards questions that are geared around, you know, contact tracing or opening hours or restrictions and things like that has changed dramatically in a way that people couldn't predict. And without that kind of review and monitoring cycle, it would be a service that then becomes less and less useful for your customers, sort of thing. So we often have this phrase that sort of says, actually, on the first day of launch is when the bot has the most potential to improve, and that's often because the training that you've done for this solution up until that point has been on representative users, and only when you release it do you start to get it actually asking questions based on real users. And so obviously over time, the amount of monitoring you might need to do will drop off, but you still need to kind of monitor and improve that solution going forwards.
Cool. So a chatbot kind of by itself is only really capable of providing a sort of, albeit very kind of engaging and potentially very useful, but really just a kind of enhanced FAQ. The user can ask kind of a series of questions in a way that's sort of most natural to them, and then if kind of well trained, the bot is able to respond back with appropriately. But where a bot can provide real kind of true value along that customer journey is enabling kind of particular transactions. And that may be sort of along the lines of kind of ordering a product, indeed kind of buying a product, checking on kind of delivery or kind of changing delivery times. But in this instance, Nina has kind of found out the information about the products that she's interested in, and she now wants to kind of go in and book in for a treatment. Now via the bot, she's kind of able to find out her local shops, and she happens to be Dundee based, so she can kind of select that shop via the kind of the images that you have there, but then from the bot, she is then able to kind of review available times and dates to book that in, and indeed that kind of calendar is actually presented in the chat console, and then kind of go through and fulfill that and book in that session. Of course, at that point, the bot can then provide sort of provision, additional details, including kind of how to arrive safely and around kind of particular kind of COVID guidance. Over to you, Andy.
Yeah, thanks. So just tying this all together then, obviously, when I talk about chatbot, it's again another bugbear of mine, kind of it gives the wrong impression. And one of the things that I'm campaigning for is to move towards this concept of an assistant. And that's particularly relevant when it comes to talking about marketing and talking about reaching new customers, because it's one thing to kind of catch the eye of a user, but it's another thing to actually obviously complete that into a sale and actually generate business for it. And really, these type of integrations are going to be the key point in terms of how you transition from sort of a general interest through into an actual transaction. And also this kind of transition between, something that's a chatbot generally just responding to simple queries versus an assistant that's going to help you actually do a transaction. And all of these sort of use cases that you see on the screen here are use cases that are really easily possible with this kind of technology. And there's many, many more that you can start to delve into. So in a simple terms, things like triaging or customer service actually help your customer satisfaction sort of thing. But also we talked here about things like e-commerce, reminders and product discoveries as other mechanisms that you can use this conversational AI for. These require a little bit more development in terms of being able to integrate the systems that you have behind the scenes, but technology and tools are existing nowadays to make that process just a whole lot smoother, a whole lot simpler, so that you can provide this really rich and engaging platform for your end users.
Yeah, and very much kind of to that point, I think people most sort of commonly think of chatbot platforms as being very much kind of reacting to users' input and a user's inquiry. But actually, they can, with the kind of the right integrations and the right setup, they can actually be kind of proactive as well, and very much personalized to that matter. So in this instance, Nina has kind of completed her treatment. The bot has a kind of reminder to follow up with her on how that treatment went, but also then provide kind of quite sort of personalized notifications around kind of particular campaigns or particular events or a product launch. But in this instance, kind of sharing an event that she can attend at the same location, and then kind of go through to kind of booking in with that event.
Yeah, one of the things that's driven the increase in the use of this technology is the number of channels that we have available to these for these types of conversations and interactions, and that's both a blessing and a curse in a way, because in some respects you've got multiple channels to be able to interact with the user on, multiple platforms to kind of think about potentially market on and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, you've got multiple channels by which you can engage with your user. And typically the growth has been about users having choice of the right user choosing the right platform that's relevant for them. And part of the reason we put this up is obviously to think about the different types of content that are relevant to those channels. So whereas, something like Messenger or something like that is going to be quite engaging, quite social, obviously something like a voice-driven device like an Alexa can still be benefiting from the same technologies under the covers, but it's much more instant and much less about richer content. It's about enabling actions and enabling kind of tasks to be performed. But this is an ever-growing landscape. Obviously, new channels and new technologies are being added over time. And I think COVID has only helped kind of escalate that shift towards more channels. The kind of relevance to marketing is obviously wanting to make sure that when a user sees a piece of content that is of interest to them, they can complete that transaction on the channel and on the platform that is most relevant and most applicable to them. And indeed, I've seen a lot of people that are moving towards these channels that have lower bandwidth kind of traffic. They don't have adverts on, they're focused on the task that they want to be able to do. And again, a chatbot is perfect for those types of interactions. People who are very busy, want to get straight to the point and want to get those kind of tasks done. And we can obviously help you with integrations onto any of these as and when you want to take that trip, if you know what I mean.
Cool. So now, and sort of beginning to get sort of coming to the end and wrapping up. But now, of course, one of the big benefits of any chatbot platform is its ability to capture automatically those kind of valuable customer insights on what they want to know and the kind of actions that they want to perform. And certainly, of course, this information can be used to better inform your kind of product development. But also, and Andy kind of touched on it as part of that sort of retraining, that training slide that you saw, but also kind of better and improve the usefulness of the bots by training that content to better serve that user. But it can also provide a really sort of engaging and sort of fun platform for collecting customer details, but indeed also kind of customer feedback, as you can see here in this example. Now, leadingly in this example, the bot has kind of asked Nina around how a particular treatment went, and in this instance, for whatever reason, she wasn't kind of terribly happy. And the bot kind of recognized, or has been trained to recognize that at this stage, really for Nina to kind of get the best customer experience, she's probably better placed kind of talking to a human agent around the particular challenges that she encountered. And so at this stage, the bot is going to kind of pass her over to a human. And at this stage, I'll pass over to Andy.
Yeah, thanks. And I think the reason we mention this is actually that it's a multiplier here. So when we talk about a bot, obviously they are very good at certain tasks, but there are also tasks that humans are most appropriate for. Certainly sensitive issues or complex scenarios that become more complicated to kind of handle. Even just as simple as, frustration can be a good trigger for handing over. But the power of that handover at the right time to the right person or the right team actually has a massive impact in terms of the value that this technology can deliver. And you can see some of those stats on there around the changes that these kind of combination of technologies will help enable. So not just providing a chatbot, but providing a channel that gives you access to rich information and the right person to help with your particular query. And with that, I guess it's probably just worth kind of wrapping up that sorry, Pete, next slide. If hopefully you've got some ideas from this, but if not, then the kind of key summary around how to get going is simply to get started. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but I think a lot of people spend a lot of time spinning their wheels, thinking about it, planning around it. But the reality is that COVID and the technology maturity has just shifted everybody towards using this type of technology. And indeed, if I was working with a business, you'd look more towards a company that has this offering rather than one that doesn't. Possibly one thing that's not so obvious, however, is the need to enable your subject matter experts rather than your developers. This is very much a technology around the content rather than the technology under the scenes. It's the content that people are after, and therefore it's those people within your business that need to enable or be enabled to add content to the solution you build. So with those two things in mind, get your teams starting small and iterating very, very quickly. Start with analytics that help you enable the decision about what the next analytics is going to be, so that as you're, what the next iteration is going to be, so that as you're listening to your users, you're constantly improving that content, constantly adapting to what the society and the solution needs, in order to kind of help deliver value for your customers. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Great, thanks guys. That was really interesting. Amazing what's happening in that field, to be fair. And so last but certainly not least, we've got Alex Ginn, who's Head of Sales UK at Adverty, and he's going to be talking about how brands are able to reach their niche in-game. And Adverty, who incidentally also use chatbots on their website, offer a very exciting service that unlocks unreachable audiences and monetizes streams in a network of in-world advertising for games, esports, and brands. It's a brave new world indeed of engaging with this captive audience with your tailored messages without disrupting the end user experience. So take it away, Alex.
Thank you very much, Christine. And thank you for having me today. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. So make sure that pops up. Hope that's all up there fine. So yeah, thank you very much, Christine. My name's Alex and I'm the Director of Sales of Adverty. We are a Swedish business and we focus mainly on ad tech. What we do is provide a solution for brands to reach audiences through the 3D environment of video games completely non-intrusively and natively. So, I mean, obviously, it's a bit of a strange conversation to be having today. So some of you might be thinking, why is gaming on the agenda? But we'll go into that very quickly. First of all, really, gaming, is this something that we should be talking about? And absolutely, why not? Gaming is the largest form of entertainment globally at the moment. I'd say at the moment, it probably won't go any further than up. As we've seen, you know, with lockdown this year, the amount of people playing games has kind of jumped through the roof. On Adverty's own network of games that we run our ads within, we saw in the first month of lockdown a 35% increase on daily active users. So really, really big changes in how people are, you know, or have been experiencing entertainment throughout COVID-19. And what we've also seen is where lockdown has kind of have been relaxed and people have had a bit more freedom before it gets taken away again, inevitably at some point very soon. We've seen kind of a plateau where we've caught a lot of new players enjoying new games. So, you know, for example, someone that might just play Candy Crush, for example, is now experimenting with you know, crossword games or like hyper casual games, something that you can just jump into and play around with for a couple of minutes here and there. The other thing about gaming is the actual reach itself. I mean, it's only really kind of combated by social. Social has around 3.5 billion users globally, whereas gaming has 2.6 billion. You know, there's nothing else that kind of compares to it really in that sort of space. So it's definitely something that should be on the eyes of or on the radar of brands for now and for the future, especially as we look at, you know, what happened last year with Cannes Lion, where Wendy's took home the Grand Prix prize with their partnership with Fortnite. So gaming really is something that should be considered as a valid and powerful marketing channel. And we'll go into many reasons as to why that is later on. But I think one of the main reasons is the fact that it can be consumed in so many different ways. And, you know, with the advent of new technology and improvements in technology, such as VR, for example, headsets are getting cheaper whilst the technology is improving. So the experience is much clearer and a lot more exciting, and there's less motion sickness. But we're starting to see a much larger group of audiences reaching into this new world of gaming. And also, of course, you've got your traditional stuff like your PlayStations and Xboxes, with the new generations coming out at the holiday period this year, which are all of my friends I know are very excited about. But then again, when we look at mobile is actually the biggest platform, for gaming nowadays. And I think it's no surprise. Everyone has a phone in their pocket, and we all travel. We all have 5 minutes here and there where we're a little bit bored, or we've had a tough day and we want to escape for a little bit. And gaming provides that solution. And I know, I mean, as a gamer myself and someone that's worked in the sales industry for a long time, it's when you've had a stressful day, sometimes all you want to do is just jump on and smash someone on FIFA 5-0 or get on Call of Duty and blast away some people. It's a great way of escaping. And we're definitely seeing, you know, a shift into, you know, one of the things that we offer at Adverty is things like day partying that you can do traditionally with digital, you know, advertising that you could do like on web and on mobile. But gaming is a brand new thing. So being able to offer, you know, day parted campaigns, so you're reaching the core players during the day, or you're reaching the casual players at night, or, you know, things like that. It's a really good opportunity to tailor, you know, to pick and tailor your campaign to reach the audience that you really want to do. The other exciting thing about gaming is the creative freedoms that you have. I mean, with other traditional advertising methods and mediums, you're very limited to what you can do within a leaderboard space or something like that. You know, with gaming, the best way that I describe it is, if you can dream it, you can code it. And it's, you know, with a lot of the partners that we work with, the gaming publishers and developers, it very much is that case. You know, if a brand really wants to themselves and add to the experience for the gamer, rather than just slapping an advert on a building, then, you know, if you want to do something that can be really, really tailored and really effective, then, you know, we can dress a character as the Colonel from KFC, for example. You know, we can put the latest Ford in a racing game. These are sorts of things that can be done. And another great thing about gaming is it's universally accessible. So for brands, you know, some brands such as PepsiCo or McDonald's, they don't care who buys their product, they just want everyone to have it. Gaming is a fantastic platform for that. And don't forget, it, you know, as a marketing channel, I'm sure there's many people watching and listening right now that might think, I didn't even know that, you know, gaming was a marketing channel. And, you know, I would completely forgive you for that. You know, it's been the developments in technology in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I would say, that have really enabled brands to jump in and out of the game very quickly. Is kind of been leading the interest as a marketing channel, and the way that you can do things natively, that we do at Adverty, really definitely helps to benefit both the user and the developer at the same time. You know, we've done some case studies where we've worked very closely with game publishers such as Subway Surfers and Talking Tom Gold Run, where we've checked retention versus advertising, and you know, we've checked the App Store for reviews and made sure that what we're doing doesn't negatively affect the experience of the player. And we're very pleased to say that that's something that does not happen. You know, we're keeping a very happy level playing field at the moment. But the other thing that you might all be thinking is, well, why gaming? You know, gaming's just full of spotty teenage boys in their bedrooms, you know, covered in Doritos crumbs and scoffing Mountain Dew. I mean, gone are the days of it being very stereotypical and being the audience is very much like that. I mean, in this day and age, in the UK alone, the average gamer is actually a 40-year-old female mother. You know, that's kind of who we're seeing as the average gamer now. So it isn't the 16-year-olds cursing at the TV because they can't come down and pause the game for dinner. It's evolving very, very differently and at a rapid pace. I mean, there are PEGI rated, the PEGI rating is how you kind of regulate a game and make sure that it's safe for certain age groups. And, you know, there are games out there that are PEGI rated 3. So if your little one is super advanced and wants to get, their hands on a controller, or you want to put them in front of a game on your phone, it's absolutely possible to do that. But we just don't target them with adverts. Mobile gaming has expanded the audience, as I've kind of mentioned already. It really has allowed people to experiment with gaming to a point that they hadn't, they might have just thought it's exclusively for the hardcore gamers on PC or the consoles of the world and things like that. But mobile's definitely let people know that, for example, Candy Crush kind of blew up. It's had over 1 billion downloads globally, and I think probably almost anyone on this call has had Candy Crush on their phone at some point. That technically would class you as a gamer. But one of the points that I do want to make is that gamers should not be viewed as gamers. We all at the end of the day have a job. We all commute. We all so most of us have a car or a family or things like that. We're valuable people. We're not just gamers, as people say. So one of the things that brands and brands really should consider is the fact that people are gaming to enjoy themselves and to relax. They're not just gaming because they're gamers. It's definitely not just a lifestyle thing. It's something that we all do to escape reality every now and then. Looking at mobile gaming in a little bit more detail, mobile is the only gender split neutral platform for gaming. And what that means is, traditionally consoles and PC have been very, very male dominated, very male heavy. And that's kind of been dictated by the sorts of games that have been coming out over the last 10, 15 years. But that's kind of changing. The Nintendo Switch came out and there was a huge influx of female gamers there. Animal Crossing, for example, came out and absolutely blew up. So it's really great to welcome new audiences and cross-gender people playing together is fantastic. The other good thing about gamers as well is they are smart. They're very, very smart. They're traditionally early adopters of new products, and if you can hit them with the right message at the right time, you'll probably get them as a day one user or a day one purchaser. We're incredibly tech savvy. I say we because I am definitely a gamer, but we are tech savvy. We make informed decisions around our purchases. So, for example, I might be shown a Samsung advert whilst I'm playing one of my favorite games on my mobile, but I might be feeling that I prefer another phone because I just know more about it, or I know what the differences are. And that's something that really needs to be seen as we are smart teams of people, and we do need to be respected in that way. There are ways to advertise to us, and when you consider that, Alex kind of spoke about it earlier on in his talk about how 84% of millennials don't trust traditional advertising. It's completely true. We're in a time now where it's record numbers of ad blockers are being used, and a lot of, Apple's coming out with the IDFA changes, which mean you have to opt in to see advertising and stuff like that. So what we do is a non-intrusive way of reaching gamers, and we do that not to take away from the experience, but to add to the realism of it. So what does gaming actually offer brands? You'll probably be wondering to yourself, okay, I've seen the pictures of the ads on the side of buildings or on bus stops and stuff like that, but what else is there available? What can be done? The first thing I kind of want to talk about is the fact that it offers global reach. Gaming is consumed everywhere. You have studios in every small country across the world that are creating games for their local markets and for global markets. And it's completely possible to, narrowly target, if you wanted to just around the M25, or if you wanted to do the pan Europe, absolutely possible. And this is what's beautiful about AI now, and the opportunities that gaming offers is now offering brands programmatically. You have exposure to users when they're relaxed and they're most susceptible to ads, chilled out, taking 5 minutes to half an hour out of their day just to enjoy themselves. It's a really good opportunity to stand out with a high contrasting advert in a game that they know very, very well, to reach them with a very quick snippet of branding. The other great thing is that you can do tailored campaigns with really specific targeting on the audiences with the aid of data segments. So, for example, a brief that I received yesterday for a classic rock album that's coming out very shortly, a very, very particular target audience that they're looking to reach. It could be Bob, who drives a Honda and is really into his gardening. Can we find that? Absolutely. Can we serve them adverts through the gaming landscape? Absolutely. It's just because it's a new marketing channel, it doesn't mean that we can't do things that brands absolutely love and know really well. And the KPIs that they've respected for the last 5 to 10 years, of course, there's going to be some sort of difference there as technology catches up to include gaming as a market. For example, viewability. There is no third-party partner that's able to offer a viewability metric now. But that is something that we are helping as a market leader, introduce to third-party vendors, as we have our own one that I'm going to speak about in a short while. But it's completely possible, and brands really do need to understand that you can still do your traditional KPIs if you want your reach and you want this specific audience. That's completely possible through the landscape of gaming. User engagement as well. Is a really big thing, and it's something that I feel you can't really be done in other kind of mediums to the extent that you can do in gaming. So, for example, on the left hand side there, you'll see an image of some characters wearing some Nike clothing. That's from a game called Adverty Life, which we have a very good relationship with the guys there. And one of the great offerings that we have with those guys is a bespoke takeover or partnership side of things. So a brand really wants to connect with millennials or Gen Zs, and they want them to wear their brands, or they want them to buy their jewelry or listen to their music, things like that. We're able to do these integrations that are targeted to a young audience, and specifically to that audience as well, where we can send out invites to only players that we have data on being between this age group and this age group, for example. And we can serve them in-store items. So you can wear this new Nike outfit that's coming out, and your avatar will wear that around, and other players will see you wearing that outfit. These are really great ways to build engagement. And I think if I go back to Fortnite again, just because they're doing such a good job, not a big fan of the game, but they're doing a fantastic job with building the audience, relationships. They've done a fantastic crossover with Travis Scott, where he performed an in-game concert where the players were flown into the air and got to experience the music in a really cool, innovative way. And that's something that gaming really does allow. And I feel that it's only possible through the world of gaming. As I mentioned, what we do is completely available programmatically, which means if you had, for example, a campaign that lasted only for 3 days over a weekend, we can turn it on Friday and we can turn it off on Sunday night. And that's absolutely great. Whereas traditionally before, if you wanted your brand to be in FIFA, for example, it would be in there for the lifetime of the game. And if you had a change of logo or a change of marketing or anything like that, you weren't able to go back in and change that. So it's quite good that's now an option for brands to jump in and out when they like. And the other good thing that we do as well is we take IAB standard ads, so nothing that's too scary or new or anything that's complex to create for agencies or brands. It all works seamlessly, and we work with all major DSPs to make sure that we're working with everyone on a global level. And the most exciting thing that I want to talk about when it comes to AI, which is why I feel when I was invited here today, this was what I got excited to talk to you about, was our AI-focused ad impression billing service. Now, I mean, those are fancy words, but what do they actually mean? And it kind of goes back to where I was speaking about viewability and that not really being something that's available within the gaming space at the moment. So, I mean that from a third party point of view. So your traditional partners such as IAS or Moat, for example, aren't able to kind of give you the stats of how long your ad was in view for or anything like that. However, we have our own first party metric, and we call that the brain impression. And this is where it's very, very clever tech, bit of tech that we developed. It took us a long time to do that. And luckily it was before my time at the business, so I didn't have to get my hands too dirty. But what we do is, depending on the angle that the player is running at. So for example, we have a game called Critical Ops, which is like a first person shooter game. And we have adverts that sit on the side of bus stops. So if you come through an alleyway and you're shooting at another player, but there's a bus stop slightly slanted, our brain impression will know not to bill the brand or the agency for that impression, because the ad is not at an optimal angle for viewing or for clear viewing. And also, if the lighting isn't bright enough, if you might be hiding in the alleyway, for example, we'll also notice that. So we'll only bill once a full amount of the advert is in view. If the lighting is clear, if the text is clear. These are all things that the brain impression learns and can work out in a very short period of time, split seconds, before we make the decision whether or not that ad has been or is viewable to a user before we bill. So that's a really exciting part of something that we do at Adverty, and we're actually helping, as I mentioned, the third-party viewability partners of the world. We're helping them to build their own products using our tech. So very, very exciting time for us here. A little bit more about what Adverty actually does and what we offer to brands. So we don't have just the in-game ads that appear in the 3D environment of the games. We do have a brand new product as well that we announced to the market, I believe it was 2-3 weeks ago now. And it's a media first. We're very excited to say that we are offering brands the opportunity to appear within the menu of video games. So for example, on the left-hand side there, you'll see a racing game. As you're choosing your loadout, which race course you want to race on, or which car you want to take, or any changes you want to make to your car setup, there is an advert there that can be rewarded or non-rewarded depending on the brand's own vision. So basically, what we're doing is we're encouraging users to click on that advert, which can open up to a HTML full-page ad that can be completely customized. So, for example, let's go with Subway, for example. Subway might want to promote their new range of sandwiches or some new ingredients, and you can tick the advert and it'll open up and give you the opportunity to build your favorite sub in front of you just by playing a game on the screen. And then there's an order button via Uber Eats, something like that. It's really quite exciting to be able to offer this sort of integrated ad experience. And also it's a game within a game, which was quite nice to offer. So that's our seamless in-menu unit, and that kind of ticks our performance metric side of things. Traditionally, gaming, kind of, it lends itself very well to the branding side of marketing. But for those that want a return on investment instantly, or they want to manage views to, visits to site, or, things like that, or footfall in store, things like that, we can measure this, and we can offer this solution to them. The other thing we do as well is in-game video. So we have fantastic relationships with the majority of the biggest game publishers within Europe and America. We're able to offer in-game video solutions, which again can or cannot reward the player. So there are incentives to watch a 30-second video, because you'll get in-game currency that will help the player to progress. And that's a fantastic way of building a really personal relationship with that user. And then, what that can do again is, if you see the Uber if you see the Uber example on the screen there, that can take you straight through just from watching a video to actually ordering something right there, which is great. And I did mention the in-menu a second ago, but it's a little bit easier to see with a nicer example. So our ads are placed seamlessly into the menu. This is an example of Critical Ops. Looks like a racing game, but is definitely a shooting game. And yeah, so you get a KFC advert as example within the menu. You click on that to be rewarded with some in-game currency, maybe some coins to buy new weapons, or some new skins for your weapon, for example. And then you'll be able to have the opportunity to go through, order now, go through to the website, and purchase from there. So it's a really exciting new bit of technology that's we're surprised hasn't been done before. But we're working with the best game publishers to be able to offer this to a humongous global reach very, very shortly. And kind of going off from that, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. The last thing is really, do you have a media strategy yet for the world's largest entertainment platform? And if not, hi. Thanks very much.
Oh, that's amazing, Alex. Gosh, it's definitely a whole brand new world to play in on so many levels. But that's fantastic. So that wraps up all our talks. Thanks very much to all the speakers. And I know that we've got a few questions lined up. I've already got a couple. One of my first ones was with regards to the chatbots. This is obviously for Pete and Andy. Is there sort of a universal learning for bots that you can start off on a platform, or do you have to start from scratch when creating chatbots for different products and brands?
Yeah, so what we describe, chatbots are what we describe as a supervised learning AI problem, in the sense that you train it in a supervised way to be relevant to the scenario that you're geared up to support, as it were. There are some kind of small level of examples for things like small talk and periphery type intents that you might want to support. But in general, you do sort of build up the bot very bespoke to you and your use case. That doesn't necessarily say it has to take a long period of time. And indeed, you would start small with the amount of training you'd give, and you would iterate and increment over time. But it is very much around tailoring towards yourself. Unfortunately, it's also not something that can be done automatically either. There was a famous case where Microsoft built a bot that was intended to learn and react to the way people interacted with it. And unfortunately, they had to take it down within 24 hours because it became racist. So if you ever want to Google anything, Google Microsoft Tay, Tay, and you can read all about it.
God.
But yeah, that's when things go wrong. But don't do that.
Wow, what a nightmare! What a brand nightmare. So Sam and Abby, I don't know if you've got some questions already lined up for us for the speakers.
Yeah, so this one's for Alex Springer. Stephen's wondering, is this partnerships relationship little more than co-branding licensing, little more than a co-branding licensing deal?
So, well, that is certainly a partnership. I think what we tend to look at more are, there's some co-branding involved. Typically, though, it is the brand itself will handle the product, the service, whatever's on offer. And you're looking at the partner as more of an amplification of a message, as opposed to something co-branded. That said, there are very big exceptions to that. If you look at things like Fairportal in the travel space, Expedia, Booking, they all do things like offer their services as a white labeled option for partners. And so you'll have partners that will take that white label, put it on their sites, and offer things like direct access to the APIs. Fortunately, the answer is it kind of depends. And it can go straight up from an influencer holding a pair of trainers all the way to a real co-branding effort along the way.
Cool. Cool. So Stephen's also got a question for Pete and Andy. Can a chatbot learn from interaction? I think we've kind of went through that.
Yeah, I was just answering that as well. So I think we've covered that. The only other thing I'd add to it is obviously you don't need to specify every type of interaction. It's not sort of a programming, if this, then do that. It's about understanding sort of similar words and certain relationships to things. So if I was to say, can I have a latte, that's the same as, or very similar to me saying, can I have a cappuccino, because the language model under the covers understands that coffee and cappuccino and latte are all very similar words. So it will, be able to support multiple ways of saying the same thing with more data, but it's not that it will learn itself, as it were.
Cool. So Alex Ginn, we've got Scott asking, how are ads integrated with VR gaming, and is there a means to make these non-disruptive?
Yeah, absolutely. We do that. When Adverty began about 2-3 years ago, we mainly focused on VR, AR, and just a little bit of mobile. So it's completely possible. I mean, I'll take, for example, a fishing game that we had in VR called Bait. You would think to yourself, how would you do a in-game placement in a fishing game? Well, when you're fishing on the lake, there was a little hut on the right-hand side, a little bit in the distance, and every now and then you might see a poster pop up when you entered the game that might just be on the side of the hut. So almost like a today's special sign. It would replace that. We had some roller coaster VR games where as you're getting to the top of the hill, there would be a big billboard and then you'd go down the slide. So then it's out of view again. It really does mirror out of home experiences, but just within the gaming space is kind of the best way to kind of describe it. And in other ways, we used to do it as well. Again, within Bait, the fishing game, we used to have a little plane that would every now and again fly past in the sky with a little message attached to the back of it. You would tend to see at the beach. So nothing that you wouldn't expect to see in real life. That's kind of the way we try to make our technology work. It shouldn't scare the user. It shouldn't be like, what the hell is that doing there? It's all playful, but at the same time, it's engaging, and you're noticing it at the in good detail.
And Alex, can I just jump in quickly? What's the craziest thing that you've done in a game then? What's the nuttiest idea that the client or yourselves have had?
I don't know if I can say it or not. I've had some really, really strange requests come through before. I think the craziest one I've had was, I won't name many brands, but I had an alcohol brand come to me that their mascot is a pirate, and they really wanted one of the players to run around with a pirate hat on and celebrate as a pirate when they scored a goal. But due to age limiting issues, we weren't able to deliver that. But it would have been quite cool. But sometimes the imagination can get a bit too wild, and it can go a bit far. But most of the time, game publishers and companies are really quite happy to do fun things like that, because it adds to the experience for the gamer at the end of the day, and that's what we're here to do.
Definitely, very cool.
Cool. Kind of speaking of gaming experience, is there a means to integrate advertising within mechanics as opposed to visual elements of the game, or linking to external rewards through links?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's kind of been done. It was done pretty well a couple of years back. I mean, within Final Fantasy 15, to give an example, key parts of the storyline, you would encounter real world brands. So, for example, the main character is to marry his childhood lover, and it doesn't happen in the end, and her wedding dress is in a shop window, and it's a Vivian Westwood, and it has details about it, and you end up getting a book where you can read stories about Vivian Westwood and stuff like that. But then there was also a game recently, Death Stranding came out, and to regain your energy and to regain your life, you had to drink cans of Monster Energy drink, which I definitely not recommend in real life, but in the game, it has its place. But on the mechanical side of things, I mean, there are things that we're doing with like tournament leaderboards within esports games where, for example, a brand can sponsor a tournament, and if you place first in the battle royale, then you get 10 tickets into a raffle, and then at the end of the tournament, you might win a PS5, for example, or something like a big gaming setup, something like that. So mechanics is kind of something we're trying to get into. It takes a lot more development work, but I mean, for now, the hunger isn't there massively for mechanics. It's more about the visuals and the experience and adding to that for now.
Cool. Cool. So we've got a question for anyone. What areas of data science pair with AI?
What was the start of that question? Sorry, I didn't catch the start of it.
Sorry, what areas of data science pair with AI? Don't all jump in at once.
I can throw an opinion in there, I guess. Opinion slash some of what I've seen there. You can't really have one without at least a lot of elements of the other. I think AI tends to get thrown around. It's very much an ideal. We'd love to get to the point where we have actually, well, I think most of us would love to get to the point where we have actual AI. But what we're really talking about is a group of things that is intelligent in very specific domains. So you think of like the more recent classic example of the board game of Go, and AlphaGo and Google's efforts there beating the best player in the world. That used a combination of deep learning, neural networks, and processing over almost infinite at this point, every Go game ever recorded. In its domain, it's now the expert. It's absolutely the best at that particular game, and it makes better decisions based on the information it has than the humans playing that game. But it's still stuck in that domain, and it's still fit on the tools that we have in place. So from a data science perspective, if you're looking at pure analytics, the next step of that is how do I take those analytics and use what computers do best, which is pull in massive amounts of data and perform these calculations that I can then productize and make into something that delivers recommendations, makes decisions, and that sort of thing. And I think that's where a lot of what we call AI falls into. Essentially, the machines can do data science better than necessarily we can when it comes to that crunching the numbers, the making the assumptions. But then sometimes making those inferences is where an actual data scientist needs to come into play. But again, big caveat, complete opinion.
Cool. So we've got one for Andy and Pete. Scott's wondering, is it important for chatbots to feel like human interaction, or is a more authentic approach better for UX or user experience?
Yeah, I think I can take this one, Andy. And this very much kind of comes back to kind of one of the things we mentioned in our presentation, which is around the importance of conversational UX, and that's an area where we help a lot of our clients, and this is certainly kind of one of the primary questions that comes up amongst this kind of engagement. I'd say sort of first things first is to really set the expectations accordingly and letting the user know that they are talking to a bot. However, that being said, you do want to keep it sort of in keeping with a kind of human-to-human conversation. So you want to keep messages short and to the point. You want to vary responses, sort of make it that much more kind of engaging and interesting, particularly if you're for the kind of welcomes and greetings. Like any kind of conversation, have a strategy for getting out of the conversation kind of when you get stuck, if you don't happen to know the answer to some of these questions, for instance. And similarly, don't be kind of afraid to sort of verify kind of particular understandings around queries. But something I think definitely to kind of highlight is don't overdo the kind of the humor and the empathy of a bot. Once you've established that it is a bot, I think the wins can be small, but there can be some considerable losses in that engagement. But also at the same time, do remember that it's a conversation and not a form. So don't limit your kind of experience to the ways you may kind of implement a non-conversational platform.
Brilliant. So Alex, is there a benchmark click-through rate to aim for in gaming ads, or is it industry or game specific?
Well, traditionally, what we've been doing ourselves, and I think other gaming providers as well, aren't really using CTR as a benchmark, mainly because in-game placements aren't clickable. It would be an absolute nightmare to have in-game ads clickable if you're playing on a phone screen, which isn't exactly the biggest thing in the entire world. It's not the big TV size. So if you were to accidentally tap an advert and it would take you out of the game all of a sudden. You'd find yourself potentially dead if you were playing a first-person shooter game, or you might have run into an obstacle if you're playing one of those endless running games. So we did focus groups a while back where we had a live version of the game that was clickable, and we had a sandbox version where it was non-clickable, and we paired them up and got some user feedback, and everyone hated the fact that they'd accidentally click an advert and be taken out of the game. So we took a conscious decision not to offer click-through, which is why we now offer the in-menu advert instead, which is before you're actually in the game experience, before you have to concentrate, to some sort of level of degree there. But the performance side of the business is kind of starting off now, and we're bringing the in-menu to some of the big games, and we'll have that launched, we expect, by either December or January. So no answer right now for you on average CTRs, but what I can tell you is that the measurement, the metric that we're using most is time spent in view, or time spent with brand, and it's outperforming social and YouTube by a long shot. So for example, if we're doing a run of network campaign, we tend to see an average time spent in view with around 14 seconds, which is massive. And for the price, in comparison, I think it comes out at around 0.0005 pence per ad, so time in view. So it's fantastic. We're really, really pleased with how that's going down. It's being received really well by brands and agencies.
Cool. I think we're kind of running out of time, but we'll finish off with one last question for everyone. What areas of AI are the most exciting that you see emerging?
Maybe each person can answer that. Maybe all of you have a go at answering this question. It's a good one to finish off with. So starting with Andy.
So it's going to be a very underwhelming answer, I think. But for me, that the areas where it's exciting is where it starts to become more pervasive. So it's not necessarily doing anything glossy or newsworthy, but it's just doing it well and doing it naturally, sort of thing. So being part of our everyday life is what really inspires me. So there are some really fascinating areas around research, around computer vision, and around generative technologies and things like that. But we're still a way off those becoming day-to-day life. So for me personally, that research needs to happen, but the exciting stuff for me is when we start to really use it for ourselves, sort of thing.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. And Alex Springer, what would you say?
I may take this a little on the personal side. So I think we all see a lot of the benefit of AI from a business perspective, but what it enables us to do as people when it comes to solving problems that would have taken thousands of years to figure out. AI in general, and machines have a completely different skill set. And so the opportunity for us as humans to take what we do best and complement it with what the machines do best, and the middle ground crossover, and what it enables us to do scientifically, as well as from a business and marketing perspective, is pretty incredible.
Yeah, amazing. That's pretty cool. And you, Pete, what do you think?
Yeah, I think sort of and sort of very much along the lines of kind of what Andy's already mentioned, and potentially a little sort of slightly kind of boring answer from me, but very much what I do in my kind of day-to-day kind of working life, really, which is enabling different organizations of varying sizes and teams within those organizations to really embrace some of these tools and enable them to kind of bring to bear on their kind of particular requirements. I think that's the bit that excites me the most about this area, and I feel very kind of fortunate to be in a position to enable lots of organizations to do that.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thanks, Pete. And Alex Ginn.
I suppose my answer is it's a bit of a weird one. It's a personal one, but mainly for entertainment factor. I've really enjoyed, mainly for the humorous side of it, the AI vlogging that's going on at the moment. I don't know if anyone's kind of seen this, but on Twitch, where there's anime characters that are AI streaming games, but obviously they're not really playing games, and everything they say doesn't work with the video at all. But it's something that it's obviously in early development, but it seems to be very entertaining, and people are making a lot of money from this on the Twitch channels. It seems to be an incredible way for people to kind of speak to their anime wives or whatever you want to call it, things like that. It's just an entertaining new thing that's come out of this. I'd say, I think it was the end of last year. If anyone's ever bored and has 5 minutes to spare on Twitch, just watch some anime vloggers try and play video games. It's absolutely hilarious.
I'm definitely going to have a go at that. That sounds brilliant. Well, I think that wraps it all up. Thanks very, very much for all your amazing talks. Really, really interesting topics. We will be posting this on our YouTube and Vimeo channels, and we will send the link through when we post on social. But big thank you to all 4 of you guys, and fantastic launch to our new meetup. So thanks very much, and I think we'll stop recording now.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Cool.
Bye bye. Take care.
Cheers.